In this chapter, we're going to be learning how to install PHP and MySQL on a Macintosh. I want to start out by first giving you an overview of what we're going to do before we go through each of the steps. The first thing we're going to need to do is make sure that we have a web server, and that's going to serve up the web files, process the PHP for us, and respond to requests from browsers. So we're going to have a browser makes a request to the web server. Apache Web Server is included with macOS 10. And it's been there for a number of different versions. In macOS 10.8, we have version 2.2 included. So that's already there. There are a couple of differences, though, from this version from previous versions of macOS 10. Starting with version 10.8, they removed the web sharing option that you find in the system preferences. So we're going to have to learn how to start and stop Apache without that. So I'm going to show you how to do that. They also removed the sites directory. There's normally a default directory called sites, and that's where we would put our code. But they've taken that away now. It's not there. It wasn't deemed to be sort of an important feature for most people because most people aren't developing. So it's something that we'll have to recreate there. And we'll have to do a little bit of configuration on Apache to get it to do what we need it to do. Then we're going to need to make sure that we have PHP installed, of course. PHP also comes included with macOS 10.8, and that's version 5.3. Now that's not the latest version of PHP. And that often happens when they finally ship a version of macOS 10. Sometimes it'll be just a little bit behind the latest PHP version. Now you could use 5.3 and save yourself the trouble of upgrading. Just go right with 5.3 from the start, and almost every single thing we're going to learn would work perfectly well. And I'll highlight the things that wouldn't. However, I'm also going to show you how to upgrade to the newest version to make sure that we have the newest version as well. And then we're going to need to do a little bit of configuration to PHP's options. After we do that, we're going to make sure that we have MySQL. That's going to be our database that we're going to use. So we want to make sure that's installed. So we'll download and install it from the MySQL website. It's not included with macOS 10. And we'll need to do a little bit of configuration to it. And we're going to need to set a root password so that every time we access the database, we're going to have a password to authenticate ourselves to say, yes, I'm allowed to get this data out of the database. So we'll learn how to set a root password for that. And then last of all, we're going to need to have a text editor. And so we're going to download and install TextMate. Now you could use a number of different text editors, and we'll talk about what some of the other options are. But TextMate's the one that I'm going to show you to use. Okay, so let's get started by seeing how we set up the Apache web server.